At Mother's Day lunch, she said, "I'm proud of all my children, except the loser sitting at the table." Everyone laughed. I stood up, placed a black box on the table, and said, "For you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day." Then I walked out, retrieved the luxury car I had gifted her, and moments later, she screamed when she finally opened it. "I'm proud of all my children, except the loser sitting at the table." That was my mother's toast, word for word, on Mother's Day, her champagne glass held high and the rest of the table erupting in laughter like she'd just delivered the joke of the century. I was the loser. I didn't even flinch. I just stared at her, at the lines around her mouth that always tightened when she was about to humiliate me, at the glint in her eyes that said, "Yes, I know what I just said, and no, I don't regret it." My sister, Melanie, snorted into her mimosa. Her husband, Greg, banged the table. My younger brother, Aaron, leaned over and whispered, "Don't take it so hard, man, it's just Mom being Mom." Nobody looked uncomfortable. Nobody said anything. Nobody said enough. I was invisible, but only when they wanted me to be. When bills needed paying, when Melanie's car needed new brakes, when Aaron needed rent. Just this once, suddenly I became the family pillar. But on Mother's Day, I was the punchline. I hadn't planned on making a scene. I hadn't planned on doing any of what I was about to do, but something shifted inside me then, something final. I reached under the table, pulled out a black box, and placed it right in front of her plate. "Happy Mother's Day," I said calmly. She blinked, confused, maybe suspicious, definitely uneasy. "What's this?" she asked, her voice suddenly cautious. Everyone leaned in. "You'll see," I said. And then I stood, adjusted my jacket, and walked out of the house. 10 minutes later, I was in the driveway. I unlocked the luxury car I'd given her last year, the one she bragged about at her book club, the one she told her friends her favorite son had gifted her. She never told them it was me. I had the second key. I got in, started the engine, and pulled away, slowly, calmly, like I was running an errand. She screamed when she opened the box. I didn't hear it, but I pictured it vividly, her shrill voice echoing through the house, her perfectly manicured fingers clawing at the box's edges, finding what I'd left her, a single photo, me at 10 years old, holding a homemade Mother's Day card and a bouquet of flowers I'd bought with the coins I'd saved by skipping lunch for a week. On the back, "This was the last time I thought you cared." That's how it started. No calls, no texts, not even a vague Facebook post from Melanie, which was strange for someone who couldn't go 20 minutes without telling the world about her emotional state or her kale smoothie. Then, crack, the silence broke. Aaron texted me, "Hey man, that car thing, she's a mess, maybe apologize?" Apologize. I was humiliated in front of a table full of people, on purpose. They laughed, and now I was supposed to feel bad for taking back something I paid for in full? I didn't reply. I blocked him too. I wanted to see what they'd try next. And they tried. 3 days later, my father called. Not to apologize, not to ask how I was, just one sentence left on the voicemail. "If you're done being dramatic, we could use a hand with Aaron's tuition." I laughed so hard, I almost dropped the phone. Aaron, the golden boy, the future of the family, the one who just needed time to figure things out. He'd been figuring it out for 6 years. Meanwhile, I was paying his credit cards and sending him money for textbooks he didn't even buy. I told myself I was done. I actually believed it, but then I made the mistake of going back. Not for them. For Grandma. Her 83rd birthday. The only person in that family who looked at me without judgment. She lived in a small house on the outskirts of town, where the lawn always looked freshly cut, and the air smelled like lavender and soap. She never asked for anything, just offered me peppermint candies and memories. The party was simple, finger foods, folding chairs, plastic tablecloths. I almost forgot who I was dealing with, until I heard it. They were in the kitchen. I'd gone to get ice. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I just stopped when I heard my name. Melanie, loud as ever. "He's not family, he's just a wallet with feelings." The room erupted in laughter. I could hear Greg chuckling, saying, "Well, feelings don't pay the rent." Then Mom, my mother, a tired, dramatic sigh, the kind she always did when she wanted sympathy. I wish he'd learned to take a joke. He always does this to us. It's not like we forced him to give us anything. And then Dad, the final blow. He did it to feel important, to make us feel small, for once. I stood there, ice bucket in my hands, just stood there, not moving, not breathing. They hadn't seen me yet. Not until I finally walked in. The room went dead silent. They didn't even try to hide it. No apologies, no fake laughter, just guilt. And then the usual cover-up. "Oh, there you are. We were just talking about." "Yes," I said, "I heard it all." Melanie blinked. Mom tried to grab my arm. "Don't twist this, honey. We were just remembering how helpful you used to be." I said, "Don't worry, message received." I didn't leave. Not yet. Grandma hadn't had her cake yet. But I watched. I watched as nobody met my eyes for the rest of the night. As Aaron handed me a plate like he was making a peace offering. As Greg tried to start a conversation about the stock market, as if pretending nothing happened would reset the timeline. They knew I'd heard them. They also knew I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. And that scared them more than anything. But they weren't done. A week later, I got an email from my bank. A transfer had been attempted using an old joint account I had with Dad. We'd opened it when I helped him refinance the house 4 years ago. It had been inactive. I'd forgotten it existed. They hadn't. I called the bank, froze the account, and reported the attempt. Then I went to their house. Not to confront them, but to observe them. They were having tacos, I could smell it. I didn't knock. I didn't speak. I just stood across the street, hands in my pockets, as the windows glowed with warm, family light. I wasn't in there. But I used to be. They didn't notice me until Melanie came out to take the trash. She froze when she saw me, then smiled like nothing had happened. "He's being dramatic again," she called out. "Come in, it's Taco Tuesday." I walked towards her. Not close. Not nearly close enough. "You tried to steal from me," I said. "You joked about me. You used me. You mocked me. And now I'm supposed to smile and eat tacos." She shrugged. "Families fight." I leaned in. "No, families break." Then I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. But the next morning, she texted, "Don't do anything crazy, you'll regret it." She was right. I was about to do something crazy. But I would never regret it. Because I finally saw the truth. I wasn't their family. I was their strategy. And that game was over. They texted me a week before it happened. Just one sentence. "We miss you. Let's do Mother's Day right this time." I didn't reply right away. I waited 3 days. Then I texted back, "Fine. Dinner. Just family." They thought I was crawling back. That the black box and the car were just a tantrum. That it would only take a decent meal and some sweet words to get their little puppet back. I arrived at 6. The table was set, as always. Candles, napkins folded into swans, wine glasses polished almost to death. My mother wore the pearl necklace I'd once given her. Melanie wore a low-cut dress and the same smug smile. Greg sat beside her, like her loyal pet. My father sat at the head, like he'd earned something. Only Aaron looked genuinely nervous. "We're so glad you came," my mother said. "We've missed you so much. And maybe we went too far last time. Or maybe we didn't go far enough," my father muttered, eyes downcast. "But family's bigger than pride, right?" she added quickly. "Let's not hold grudges." I didn't reply. I waited. She raised her glass. "Tonight's about moving forward. I'm proud of all my children. Even the ones who stray. We all make mistakes." Silence. Then a voice from the hallway, "Sorry I'm late." Everyone turned as Rachel walked into the room. Melanie's ex. The one she called unstable. The one she swore would ruin her life. The one they'd lied about for years. Melanie froze mid-sip. What's she doing here? She hissed. She's here for dinner, I said, calmly. With the family. Rachel sat beside me, elegant and serene, and pulled a small envelope from her purse. She placed it carefully on the table. I've kept quiet long enough, she said. But I was invited here to tell the truth. My father leaned forward, ready to growl something. But Rachel cut him off. Mrs. Guez, she said, staring directly at my mother. In January, over wine, you told me this about your son. His emotions are your leash. Pay him when he feels guilty. He's not family, he's a strategy. I turned to Melanie. And you, I said, didn't you know I was just on the other side of that hallway wall when you said, let's make him feel small for once? Melanie exploded first. She's lying. It's a setup. You brought her here to ambush us? Seriously? Are you doing this again? Do you need help, young lady? Do you want to talk about therapy? I said, cutting her off. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a printed bank statement. Here's a bank transfer. 12,500 pesos from my account to yours. Approved. But not by me. I slid it across the table. That's not a mistake. That's fraud. My father jumped to his feet. This is betrayal, he roared. We came here to make peace, and you bring the snake. My mother had already started to cry, but it was the kind of crying soap opera actresses do, just enough to look tragic without ruining their makeup. I don't know what you want from us, she whispered. I stood up. I don't want anything, I said. Not your apologies, not your calls, not your guilt. I want distance. I looked each of them in the eye. I'm not your son anymore. I'm your consequence. Then I pulled one last thing from my jacket. A sealed legal envelope. And here's the formal cancellation of all joint accounts. Access to my business. Gone. My name on the trust, updated. My grandfather made sure of that before he passed. Melanie, you're removed. Dad, erased. I dropped the envelope in front of my mother's glass. This is your inheritance now. Empty. Just like the respect you showed me. Then I pulled out an old photo, me at 10, holding a handmade card and a bouquet. The last time I thought I mattered. I tore it in half. Placed the pieces on the table. One for each of you. And I left. Nobody followed. Not a word. Just a long, ragged silence at the door. I glanced back, one last time. Their faces weren't angry. They were broken. I didn't gloat. I didn't post anything online. I didn't give a speech. I opened my laptop and a spreadsheet. For 8 days, I met with a CPA friend, and we made a list. A full audit, not of their lives. Of mine. 14,300 pesos for Aaron's tuition, semesters I paid for alone, until he gets settled. Turns out, he settled into failure just fine. 7,800 pesos for Melanie's car, a lease in my name, her name on the stickers, just until I get approved for my own, she'd said. That was 3 years ago. 2,400 pesos in medical expenses for Mom, a dozen copays and specialist visits she scheduled on my insurance, saying she'd take care of it later. She never even asked if I had coverage available. 18,000 pesos in direct transfers, some by Venmo, some cash, some bank transfer. Help with rent, my fridge broke. Just need to make it through this month. You'd think with all the money I'd sent them, they'd be living like royalty. But no, somehow, they managed to look poor and talk like they were rich. 1,650 pesos in gifts. Holidays, birthdays, made-up anniversaries. The bed I bought my parents after Dad threw the old one out in a fit of rage. Melanie's, congratulations on your engagement. Spa weekend. Aaron's, I passed my first class, sushi dinner. All itemized, with receipts, screenshots, timestamps, even a few printed text message threads. Can you send it tonight? Landlord's being a jerk. If I ask Mom, she'll freak. Just until next week. Total. 44,150.47. Not a symbolic number. Not rounded up. Precise. Cold. Clean. I handed the file to my lawyer, a quiet guy, brutal when he needed to be. We'd gone to school together. I'd once paid for his bar exam prep course. He never forgot it. "You want the full amount?" he asked. "Or leave them some dignity?" "Every last cent," I said. "No interest, no embellishments, no drama. Just facts." Because days later, they received the certified letters. One for my father, one for my mother, one for Melanie. Subject: outstanding family debt. This is not revenge, this is closure. Attached is a verified breakdown of financial support provided between 2016 and 2023. Total: $44,150.47. Please remit full payment within 90 calendar days via certified bank transfer. Oliver Harris. Melanie cracked first. "You have to be kidding. You're counting gifts." The texts kept coming. "You need help. Seriously? Are you ruining this family?" I didn't reply. I left her words unread, untouched. My father called my lawyer. Tried to use the stern voice. "We're blood. You can't see your own father." He didn't like hearing that. Yes, you can, especially when you have documentation and standing. My mother didn't call. She sent a letter, carefully written in cursive. The ink had bled where she must have wiped her eyes. "I gave you life. I stayed with you when you were sick. I prayed for you. And now you send lawyers. No apologies. No accountability. Just weaponized guilt. Just how she liked it." On day 21, we filed official civil suits. Melanie filed a countersuit, claiming emotional damage. Claimed I'd manipulated her into accepting money. She lost. Badly. The judge didn't even look impressed. "Just read the transaction log, the texts, the receipts." Dismissed her case in under an hour. Dad refused to respond. 3 weeks later, we filed for default judgment. A lien, 2 garnishment warnings, and a flag on his main checking account. Mom didn't show up to court. Didn't file a response. But when she tried to pay for her medication at the pharmacy the next week, they declined it. They'd started deducting from her retirement benefits, a percentage each month. Just like they'd deducted pieces of me for years. And I didn't gloat. I didn't yell, "I told you so." I didn't even talk about it. I just watched the payments roll in. Melanie paid first, probably to stop the bleeding. Dad paid second, only after realizing the lien would ruin his credit. Mom's final payment was a check. She'd sold her silver tea set, the one from her wedding. I heard it from a cousin who said she cried as she wrapped it up. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt clean. On day 91, I went to the bank and I withdrew exactly $44,150.47 in cash. Hundreds, 50s, 20s, 10s. Neatly bundled. I placed it in a matte black box with a lock. Lined the bottom with velvet. Added a note on top: "This isn't money. This is accountability." I didn't send it to them. I didn't burn it. I deposited it in a private safety deposit box in my name. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Proof that I'd paid for my escape. Then, I donated 5,000 pesos to a nonprofit that supports adults recovering from family financial abuse. They sent me an email receipt and a short thank you note. That was the only gratitude I needed. I didn't celebrate. No new car, no toasts, no mic drop. I just sat at the same desk where, 5 years ago, I'd skipped dinner to send Melanie rent money, and I whispered to myself, I didn't want revenge. I wanted my life back. And now it's paid for in full. I didn't move to another city. I didn't start a new life in Bali, Montana, or wherever people go to find themselves. I stayed right where I was. What changed was everything else. For the first time in my life, my phone stopped buzzing with emergencies I hadn't created. No more late-night texts from Aaron begging for help. No more missed calls from Mom that weren't actually to check on me. No more voicemails from Melanie pretending she just wanted to chat when she really needed a deposit. This silence was immediate, and it was glorious. I didn't need noise to prove I wanted it. I needed absence to prove I'd escaped it. I started sleeping better, deeper. My apartment, for once, stayed clean because I wasn't running around fixing other people's messes. Food tasted better. Music sounded louder. Even the air seemed easier to breathe. I wasn't free because they'd changed. I was free because I'd stopped knowing them too. Then came the ripples. An old family friend stopped me outside a store. She had a tight smile. "Your mother's not well." I thought maybe. I cut her off with a look. She tried again. "You know, families argue, but deep down." "No," I said. "Deep down is exactly where I buried it." She blinked, took a deep breath, and walked away. One afternoon, I pulled out a bin from my closet, full of old things I hadn't touched in years. Inside, photo albums, cards, leftover ornaments. I picked up a framed family photo, the last one we'd taken together. I was smiling, but my shoulders were hunched. I looked like a guest in my own life. I threw it away. Not angry. At peace. That same week, I packed up 3 pieces of furniture. The coffee table I bought for my parents. The bookshelf I assembled for Aaron's books, the ones he'd never read. The dining room chairs I gave Melanie when hers broke. I donated them to a shelter. Let someone else sit on them now. Someone who might be grateful. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I deleted every number in my phone that was related to them. Not just mom, dad, and my siblings. The cousins who said nothing. The aunt who laughed at me from across the table. The uncle who didn't want to take sides. Gone. I didn't block them. I just erased them. A few weeks later, I ran into my uncle at the grocery store. His mouth opened slightly, maybe to speak, maybe to feign a smile. I didn't stop walking. I didn't slow down. And when I passed him, I didn't even look back. That silence was the loudest thing I'd ever said. A week after that, I saw Melanie. She was sitting on the patio of a cafe with a man I didn't recognize, laughing, gesturing, performing. I don't know if she saw me, but I saw her. And I felt nothing. No anger, no bitterness, not even pity. Just air. Like it was a scene I'd already watched too many times. The ending came quietly. I walked into a cafe I hadn't set foot in since last year. The same one where I'd once sat across from them on Mother's Day. The day they laughed while they tore me apart in public. I ordered tea. Sat by the window. Same table, same chair. But everything was different now. There was no tension in my jaw. My ribs didn't ache. There was no countdown to the next insult. I looked at the seat across from me, the one where they all used to sit. And, for the first time, I didn't imagine them in it. It was empty. Mine. I took a sip. Looked outside. Smiled. This seat used to hurt, I thought. Now, it's just mine.